A denomination in Christianity is a distinct religious body identified by traits such as a common name, structure, leadership and doctrine. Individual bodies, however, may use alternative terms to describe themselves, such as church or sometimes fellowship. Divisions between one group and another are defined by doctrine and church authority. Issues such as the nature of Jesus, the authority of apostolic succession, eschatology, and papal primacy often separate one denomination from another. Groups of denominations often sharing broadly similar beliefs, practices, and historical ties are known as branches of Christianity. Individual Christian groups vary widely in the degree to which they recognize one another. Several groups claim to be the direct and sole authentic successor of the Church founded by Jesus Christ in the 1st century AD. Others, however, believe in denominationalism, where some or all Christian groups are legitimate churches of the same religion regardless of their distinguishing labels, beliefs, and practices. Because of this concept, some Christian bodies reject the term denomination to describe themselves, to avoid implying equivalency with other churches or denominations. The Catholic Church is the largest Christian denomination with over 1.2 billion members, over half of all Christians worldwide, making it the world's second largest religious denomination after Sunni Islam. However, the Catholic Church does not view itself as a denomination, but as the original pre-denominational church. Protestant denominations account for roughly 40% of Christians worldwide. Together, Catholicism, Protestantism, Anglicanism, and other denominations sharing historical ties comprise Western Christianity. Western Christian denominations prevail in Western, Northern, Central and Southern Europe, Sub-Saharan Africa, the Americas and Oceania. The Eastern Orthodox Church, with an estimated 225 to 300 million adherents, is the second largest Christian organization in the world and also considers itself the original pre-denominational church. Unlike the Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church is itself a communion of fully independent autocephalous churches that mutually recognize each other to the exclusion of others. The Eastern Orthodox Church, together with Oriental Orthodoxy and the Assyrian Church of the East, constitutes Eastern Christianity. Eastern Christian denominations are represented mostly in Eastern Europe, North Asia, the Middle East and Northeast Africa. Christians have various doctrines about the Church, the body of faithful that they believe was established by Jesus Christ, and how the divine Church corresponds to Christian denominations. Both the Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox consider each of themselves solely to faithfully represent the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church to the exclusion of the other. Protestants separated from the Catholic Church because of theologies and practices that they considered to be in violation of their interpretation. Generally, members of the various denominations acknowledge each other as Christians, at least to the extent that they have mutually recognized baptisms and acknowledge historically orthodox views including the divinity of Jesus and doctrines of sin and salvation. Even though doctrinal and ecclesiological obstacles hinder full communion between churches, since the reforms surrounding Vatican II, the Catholic Church has referred to Protestant communities as denominations, while reserving the term church for apostolic churches, including the Eastern Orthodox. There are however some non-denominational Christians who do not follow any particular branch, though sometimes regarded as Protestants. Terminology. Each group uses different terminology to discuss their beliefs. This section will discuss the definitions of several terms used throughout the article, before discussing the beliefs themselves in detail in following sections. A denomination within Christianity can be defined as a recognized autonomous branch of the Christian Church. Major synonyms include religious, group, sect, church, etc. Church, as a synonym, refers to a particular Christian organization with its own clergy, buildings, In distinctive doctrines, church can also more broadly be defined as the entire body of Christians, the Christian church. Some traditional and evangelical Protestants draw a distinction between membership in the universal church and fellowship within the local church. Becoming a believer in Christ makes one a member of the universal church. One then may join a fellowship of other local believers. Some evangelical groups describe themselves as interdenominational fellowships, partnering with local churches to strengthen evangelical efforts, usually targeting a particular group with specialized needs, such as students or ethnic groups. A related concept is denominationalism, the belief that some or all Christian groups are legitimate churches of the same religion regardless of their distinguishing labels, beliefs, and practices. Protestants differs greatly from the views of the Catholic Church and the Eastern Orthodox churches, the two largest Christian denominations, which each teach themselves to be the exclusive direct continuation of the Church founded by Jesus Christ, from whom other denominations broke away. These churches, and a few others, reject denominationalism. Major branches. Christianity has denominational families and also has individual denominations. The difference between a denomination and a denominational family is sometimes unclear to outsiders. Some denominational families can be considered major branches, groups that are members of a branch, while sharing historical ties and similar doctrines, are not necessarily in communion with one another. Christianity has 5 major branches: Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, Anglicanism, and Protestantism. The Assyrian Church of the East is also a distinct Christian body, but is much smaller in adherence and geographic scope now than in the past. Each of these 6 branches has important subdivisions. Because the Protestant subdivisions do not maintain a common theology or earthly leadership, they are far more distinct than the subdivisions of the other 5 groupings. There were some movements considered heresies by the early church which do not exist today and are not generally referred to as denominations. Examples include the Gnostics, the Ebionites, and the Arians, Bogumilism and Bosnian Church. The greatest divisions in Christianity today, however, are between the Eastern and Oriental Orthodox, Catholicism, and the various denominations formed during and after the Protestant Reformation. There also exists a number of non-Trinitarian groups. There also exist some non-traditional groups that the majority of other Christians view as apostate or heretical, and not as legitimate versions of Christianity. Comparisons between denominational churches must be approached with caution. For example, in some churches, congregations are part of a larger church organization, while in other groups, each congregation is an independent autonomous organization. This issue is further complicated by the existence of groups of congregations with a common heritage that are officially non-denominational and have no centralized authority or records, but which are identified as denominations by non-adherents. Study of such churches in denominational terms is therefore a more complex proposition. Some groups count membership based on adult believers and baptized children of believers, while others only count adult baptized believers. Others may count membership based on those adult believers who have formally affiliated themselves with the congregation. In addition, there may be political motives of advocates or opponents of a particular group to inflate or deflate membership numbers through propaganda or outright deception. Denominationalism. Denominationalism is the belief that some or all Christian groups are legitimate churches of the same religion regardless of their distinguishing labels, beliefs, and practices. The idea was first articulated by independents within the Puritan movement. They argued that differences among Christians were inevitable, but that separation based on these differences was not necessarily schism. Christians are obligated to practice their beliefs rather than remain within a church with which they disagree. But they must all also recognize their imperfect knowledge and not condemn other Christians as apostate over unimportant matters. Some Christians view denominationalism as a regrettable fact. As of 2011, divisions are becoming less sharp, and there is increasing cooperation between denominations. Theological denominationalism ultimately denies reality to any apparent doctrinal differences among the denominations, reducing all differences to mere masses denomina. A denomination in this sense is created when part of a church no longer feel they can accept the leadership of that church as a spiritual leadership, due to a different view of doctrine or what they see as immoral behavior. But the schism does not in any way reflect either group leaving the church as a theoretical whole. This particular doctrine is rejected by Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy and the Oriental Orthodoxy. In these churches, it is not possible to have a separation over doctrinal or leadership issues, and any such attempts automatically are a type of schism. Some Protestant groups reject denominationalism as well.